to introduce Gary Goddard, who's going to speak to us, who is the Los Alamos Airport Manager, Director,
The only
extraordinaire.
employee.
Extraordinaire. He's been here over a year and a few days.
A whole year.
And he's going to share with us all the exciting things happening in our airport. He's also a pilot, and so we're excited that he's.
And I also have an off-grid solar greenhouse.
Excellent.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So, with lots of sensors and data.
Oh, wow.
So,
Oh,
wow.
And a previous lab employee.
Yes, previous lab employee. So I'll start with that. Yeah, I have a BA in cultural anthropology and mainly focused on Central America development and a lot of history and cultural stuff there. But I did not pursue a PhD, so I got a job and worked in architecture and design. I ran a shop for many years in Oakland, designing and building furniture and working for the various museums there, and did a lot of installation work and stuff, and was an artist myself and taught electronic and interactive art at the UC Berkeley and the San Francisco Art Institute for a dozen years or so. And then when I moved out here during the recession because it was hard to make a living there. And my wife just finished her PhD and got a job at the lab. So we moved out here, and then I got a job. I got a master's degree in engineering, and then got an internship at the lab, and the job at the lab. And I was a controls engineer working on building automation and controls, and worked for sustainability as a consulting engineer for about 14 years. And then last year, I'd had enough of the lab. I quit, and I actually got the job before I quit as the airport manager. It wasn't like I stomped out of there. It was like I was just kind of casually looking for other work. And I've been a pilot since 2019 or so is when I got my certification. And that's my tri-pacer there that sometimes I fly to work. I have a hangar in Okewinge, and I fly up there. It's about a 12-minute flight. My son usually falls asleep because he goes to the middle school here. So every time he falls asleep, I take a picture, and I'm hoping to have a real good animation of that over the years. So anyway, that's my background. I kind of put in I was a member of the Pajarito Flying Club, and that was how I was able to get my certification. There's not any type of mechanism right now at Los Alamos to get a certification, so that's kind of why it's relevant. I didn't know much about the airport. I've flown into it a bunch of times. I got my pilot's license out of there and everything, but I never really paid that much attention to it because I wanted to be in the air and not on the ground. But I've learned a lot of things about it. There's a lot of history to the airport that I don't know, which I'd like to get to know. I call it the military mid-century design. It kind of has a cool mid-century design, but it's like, it's got the rough forced design of a military, kind of design. But I'm still trying to work with the mid-century part of that at least. So there's a lot of things that I'll get in that I'm trying to work on the terminal, but. And most of the work, I don't know if people know this, but most of the development there is not funded by the county. It's funded by the FAA and the New Mexico Department of Transportation Aviation Division. And so they work together with the FAA to give us grants and to manage grants, to do runway paving, terminal improvements, to build hangars. Just about everything is covered with that except for day-to-day operating expenses. The model that they use is they give you a bunch of money, you develop it, and then you're supposed to be able to maintain that through airport fees and hangar rentals and fuel sales, things like that. It's supposed to be self-sufficient after that, but it's rare. It's not many airports are really self-sufficient unless they have a lot of traffic, and we certainly do not have a lot of traffic. There's about 50 aircraft on the field. They're all inside the hangars. I know it looks completely empty when you drive by, but they're all full of airplanes that sometimes are flying, sometimes not. And we used to be a lot busier commercial flight. We used to get grants from the NMDOT to do commercial flights to Albuquerque and other places, but they were kind of like these grants to get you started. And as soon as that grant money went away, it collapsed and it was too expensive to do commercial flights. So that's kind of where we're at today. And then we had rental cars there until COVID kind of killed that one. And but there's a possibility of getting that one back. This is a sign that's on the airfield to warn pilots of the rotor that comes over the top of the mountain. It really doesn't come over that way very much over the top of the mountain, by the ski hill, because it doesn't usually blow from the west. It usually blows from the south, which then it hits that mesa and then it rolls over the top of that. So when you're coming in, it can be pretty crazy landing, or it goes from the north and you get the same thing. So I updated the sign on the field and turned this into a T-shirt for the more macho pilots but it kind of tells the story. It is a very hazardous airport.
Gary, is there a time of day when it's safer to land than others?
Early morning is all. You're almost always good in early morning unless there's a front moving in. The afternoon, it just starts to build. Like today's a good example. It was no wind this morning. Right now, it's probably blowing 15 or 10. And my limit is like 18 crosswind, and that's kind of pushing it. It's pretty rowdy getting out of here at 18. So I'll flip through these real quick, but this is just Google Earth photos. You look at the parking lot and the planes on the field. The planes on the field is kind of implying that all the hangars are already filled. And so this is kind of, what's happened over the years. 2016, a lot fewer planes on the field. Here's the year after the commercial service. There's still a bit of cars in the parking lot, so they're doing something. And then 2023 is our latest decent Google photo, and not much is happening there. There's no commercial service. There's very little GA going on, general aviation going on. So these are kind of the contributors to what's been happening at the airport. We used to have a flying club that I was very, very lucky enough to be a part of, because I probably would not have been able to get a license otherwise. The closest place nowadays, there's Sierra, was in Santa Fe, and they did training, but they've closed up shop. So you have to go to Rio Rancho as the closest place, and then they're booked up because there's such a demand. So it's very difficult to get it. If you have a plane, it's easy to find instructors, but most people don't just buy a plane and then learn how to fly. So, but some people do. And so there's no aircraft rentals either. And then we used to have a mechanic on the field for about 30 years. We had 2 different mechanics, and they've retired, they're gone. So maintaining a plane is more difficult if you have to go down to my mechanics in Rio Rancho or Edgewood. I've gone to Edgewood. But if your plane's not flying, that makes things a little difficult. But they do come up here. And then just, the costs of aviation have increased, not only gas, but mainly up here because of maintenance. And our maintenance problem, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if you have to do an annual every year, and it's, for my plane, it's about $2,000, but for the bigger, more expensive planes, which are probably more numerous on the field, they can be $5,000–6,000. And if you have somebody on the field, you're going to cut down a lot in costs. And the main problem is that we had a lot of this stuff. We got a lot of people into aviation, and now that aviators are aging. And even since I've been in there in the last year, a few of them have hung up their hat, and I haven't seen any come in. So there's really no mechanism to bring in. We hired all these people at the lab, and I can guarantee you there's a few of them that would like to fly, but there's no mechanism for that. And so that's kind of problematic for long-term sustainability of the airport.
What about Civil Air Patrol?
They lost their plane. They used to have a plane based up here. They lost their plane. There was a bunch of bickering and personality conflicts. So without a plane, you know, they have decreased interest in the chapter, and so they still have meetings and they still march the cadets around. But that's
Where'd the
about
plane
that's,
go?
yeah, they confiscated it, brought it back to Albuquerque. So I've kind of stayed out of that one. It seems kind of toxic. So, uh, and so then, you know, people say to me, like, why not just bulldoze it and build a bunch of houses? And because Los Alamos probably needs houses more than they need an airport. And, you know, and on my bad days, I'm like, you know, why not? Why not just bulldoze the thing? But
Suggest the golf course.
how's it, the golf course first?
More houses on the golf course.
That would be my preference. I would take the golf course first, but that's just because I don't play golf and,
Right.
you know, but, you know, flying airplanes is about as,
A
you know,
ramped breezeway, 2-story homes. Once the kids are out, they get older, they want one level. Put it down on the other side, on the other 9 holes.
yeah,
Here's your solution. Good luck getting it
yeah.
through.
So, I mean, there still are a lot of stakeholders and people who are interested in the airport. And, you know, I mean, I think the biggest argument for keeping the airport is the firefighting capabilities. We saw that this summer with the Sky Crane that helped with the Laguna fire. I don't think Los Alamos would have burned down if we didn't have an airport, but I think it's really helpful for them to operate out of there. We now sell Jet A there, so they can fuel up right there, and that's really helpful.
You did get that?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Classic Air Medical, a lot of people complain about the noise and stuff like that. They do a lot of operations that don't have much to do with Los Alamos, but they do a lot of operations that allow the Los Alamos Medical Center not to be a full service place. And if it gets any more complicated for them, they just fly them out to Albuquerque. So, I mean, I think there's a real service to an aging population in Los Alamos here as well. There's the EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, does a lot of educational programs for kids. And you know, it's pretty well attended, and they do really a lot of good work. Right now, the EAA is building an electric airplane for this cross-country race that they're going to do next year, or maybe the year after. I can't remember exactly, but they're involving kids on working on that. And I mean, it's so amazing to me. I mean, this is the coolest thing about the airport is like most of the patrons are ex-physicists, ex-engineers, you know, and IT people, and everybody, you know, is just super smart and interesting, and they're doing really cool projects that just wouldn't happen at any old airport. And then tourism development, you know, there's probably an argument to be made that that's really not that much, but we do have people come in, fly in almost every day or every few days, and take the courtesy car and drive and visit the museums and stuff like that and spend the night. So that does happen. You know, the other thing that's not up there is contractors coming to meet with the lab and other organizations here on the Hill. They fly in their expensive planes and shake hands, and you know, and then that brings in more money to the county and to the lab. So there are a lot of people who do benefit from it. So, you know, the problem is kind of like declining airport operations, just participation. It's like, you know, from my position, you know, working with the county, like what can I do to kind of like encourage that? And there's a few things. There's a lot of constraints. The funding is limited. There's only so much county money that I can talk the county into putting into it. You know, pretty much very little. And then there's a lot of FAA requirements that you can't just use a hangar for a business. You know, all the hangars that they were paid by FAA or state grant money, they have to have aviation activities in them. So you can't just like say, oh, we'll rent it out and make some money for the airport to exist that way. There's ways you can do that. I mean, you can, there's ways to move that around a little bit, but not much. And then the geographic limitations are really tight. I mean, we're going to develop the whole west end of it. This area over here, by the terminal and this whole parking lot as you come in and stuff, there's still development opportunities there. But besides that, everything else is, you know, it used to be a landfill, so it's still subsiding and stuff. So there's a lot of area you can't build on.
Not that this will ever happen, but if you just got rid of all those people in their homes at the end of the runway,
Yeah.
right, and extended it out, is the foundation there and the topsoil and the ground to support a runway?
The runway is already
extension of the
6,000 feet long. The only thing the development would be in the form of hangars and terminal expansion and things like that. The hangar is pretty, that's pretty long. I mean, you can land some C-130s on there and things like that, big transport planes and stuff.
What's the largest commercial jet line that you can land on a runway of that size? Because I know a few years ago they did extend that runway in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
They left the people's homes there, but they did extend in the other direction.
Eminent domain, it's a national security requirement. Move the people off the hill.
Didn't they have an emergency 727 land?
Yeah, I think I've heard about that. Yeah, I don't know. I got a call from the DOD the other day, wanting to fly in a 727, I think it was, or I don't know. If I can't afford it, I don't remember the numbers of these airplanes, but it's anyway. It was a big plane, and they're like, "Do you have a big staircase and ramp and a luggage facility?" And I'm like, "No." And then they decided not to do it. So I don't know. Anyway,
It's
so.
like a plane like an Embraer CRJ or something.
I guess what you're speaking to is the administrator, the NSA administrator, who's a veteran and is focused on the primary mission set at the laboratory, which is weapons systems. And even the secretary and some others would fly in on Air Force jet, like G4s, G5s, stuff like that. So I guess the question is, what's the largest jet you have come in? Because the governor came in sometime a couple of years ago, but couldn't refuel. So as she went to do her thing, they had to turn around and go back into SAF to take fuel and then come and get her. And there was discussion about the fuel that you now have.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got all. I mean, we don't have a fuel truck, and the wings are too long to park next to the fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, the cable is only like 75 feet long, and that's not going to work. So there's all kinds of problems. But so I don't really know the largest plane. I know that 6,000 feet is pretty good, but it is high altitude, low air density, so it takes a lot further for them to land. So anyway. So these are some of the ideas that things that we can use. We can keep using FAA money. And the FAA continues to fund us to do development, which is great. And then we can, I as the airport manager can do little things like I'm going to put in a kitchen in the place, just with county funds or grant funds wherever I can find them, and just continue to improve the place. And then, strategic opportunities are like, how can we promote the airport for use? And, these are some of the things that I'm working on is trying to talk to people in the county and then say, hey, we can use it for different things. We can, have events to there. And I've held a couple events there since I've been there. And then working on some regional tourism initiatives and some advertising. So there's not a whole lot, but and then one of my ideas is to develop a net zero airport, and I'll get into that in a minute, but it's kind of a gimmick. So
Does the airport have courtesy cars for?
it has a courtesy car, and as of about 20 minutes ago, we have a rental car. Just Steve Snap and his Turo. It's kind of like an Airbnb for cars. This guy put a couple of cars in the parking lot, and so you can rent them on Turo, Turo. It's like a site, so you can go rent it. Anyway, so I just got an email from him saying he's good to go. So anyway, this presentation, by the way, is I first gave it to the city council a few months ago, and then I kind of tweaked it a little bit and updated it. That was back in July. And so I put green check boxes towards the things that I've done, and this big red X is things that I'm not allowed to do according to the city attorney. So you'll appreciate that. we special events. We hosted the open house. I'm pretty sure it was the biggest open house that we've ever had. We had some people do some paragliders fly and a flying trike and a bunch of crafts for the kids and a lot of people flew in and showcased their planes, and it was really fun. And we did a similar thing on Christmas that had been done the year before, where Santa flies in a bonanza, and all the kids get to sit on his lap and stuff. So that was staged by the local EAA folks. So this facility utilization, I was able to talk the county into letting them rent it out as another facility for I think $10 an hour. They wanted some kind of commitment, but so you can now rent the space. It's a really nice place because it's got all these glass windows and it sticks out. It's very quiet out there unless the planes are landing. And this aviation engagement, I built this app where people could sign up, and then that would connect in with pilots who were just going to go out to fly on their own, but they could take somebody. But I ran that by the attorney before I went live, and yeah. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of rules from the FAA, and he cross-checked those, and you could see how it could be interpreted as promoting these rides, and so it really falls into a commercial activity. There's subtleties in how it's worded, but so anyway, I got that one. I'm trying to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and that one didn't stick. So. Visitor service, we're trying to establish actually a rental car agency where you can do one ways down to Albuquerque or Santa Fe.
So back in my days in lab, which was 20 years ago, the rental car was doing gangbusters.
Yeah.
I mean, every time I would travel, I would rent a car here and rent one back.
Yeah.
And now that, why did that die? I mean, because
it died because of COVID.
This was, I mean, I was talking every time I went in, there was 4 or 5 people at the counter.
Wow.
Getting a car.
Yeah.
It was just constantly cars going in and out. Because, I mean, why take your own car to Albuquerque when you can get a rental car up here, park in a free lot up here, and take it down?
Yeah, the lab encouraged that as well. And, we got a bunch of data from the lab about that. And it was about $500,000 a year the lab was paying for lab employees to take a rental car instead of drive their own car. So
that's when they paid it back.
Yeah, but they paid the rental car agency like a flat rate that they negotiated, and so that was the income that the rental car agency was getting. So I've worked with a guy on the transportation board, write up a white paper, sort of a business case for a rental car agency. They did an RFP a while back for it, but nobody put any bids for it. So we're trying a different approach where we wrote this sort of business and a case for it, and with the data from the lab, and then we're going to actually go sit down with the rental company cars and shop it. So that's how we're.
But the lab wasn't. It's not like the lab was out $500,000 for rental cars because they still pay for people to travel.
Oh yeah, no, it was more expensive to pay for people's personal cars and the parking and the 50 cents a mile and all that kind of stuff.
Now my wife is using I forget what it's called, but the service that just comes up to Santa Fe, and I pick her up in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
But that's still $40.
Yeah.
Just to get from Albuquerque to here, and the lab is paying for that.
Yeah. No, I think there's a business case for it. We just need somebody to take the opportunity.
Yeah, it was doing great back in the day. I don't know why it died. That's the question.
I don't know. I wasn't around, but apparently they said with COVID, nobody was doing it. Nobody was going anywhere. So they just
This was before
folded.
COVID.
Yeah.
That it really started dying off because they
Oh.
used to rent cars for our Rotary things too.
Oh,
They
okay.
used to rent vans to take students around and stuff.
Huh.
And that died out too. And that was 15 years ago, easy. Maybe even 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's a case for, that we can make it work for a business, for a franchise, to start up again. If anybody wants to, do it.
Both Avis and Budget up here.
Yeah, an enterprise. Well, I don't know. There's a couple old signs
National Enterprise.
Yeah.
National Enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember using that.
So yeah, more than one company. So
Yeah.
it seems like, if we could get that there, I think that would, bring a little bit more activity to the airport. So So these are some of the things I'm working on in the meantime. Just updating the terminal, kind of doing some of these in phases, but when I have the budget to do it. I'm actually going to get the kitchen installed the next couple months. I designed that and I got approval to pay for all that, and some furniture upgrades. These little hourglasses I'm working on it. So
Excuse me.
yeah.
One of the items up there had to do with access control points. And I guess my general question is, having been at other airports and flying at other airports, if one chooses to head over to the facility and start using stuff like that, is it the standard go through a background check, get an ID? I mean, at least if you
No,
are
there's
an aircraft.
no. The gate code is published on the internet. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And it usually is for most airports, small airports like this.
Okay.
There's no commercial service, so the security things don't apply.
Don't apply.
Yeah. But the access is more like if I'm not there, like the doors will automatically unlock. I mean, there's an access code that if you use like the radio frequency and punch it in the door, you can get in.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
So is this one of those things where you just go to a frequency, you cue the mic a couple times and the lights come on at dusk or at dark? Is it that kind of an airport?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
So.
Okay.
So yeah, you can, yeah, anyway, the access control was just kind of, right now, you have to physically go unlock the whole place and stuff like that. So, but anyway, so I have this idea of possibly making it a net zero airport, just because it's small, manageable, and the county was talking about getting rid of some of the solar panels. Well, I recently went down to DPU and talked to them about the solar panels. And now I'm in this phase where I have all the drawings and I'm trying to figure out how to fix it rather than dismantle it. So, so I'm gonna do my best to try to get it fixed and get it back up and running. It's a 1 megawatt plant, and it doesn't seem like it's that difficult. There's a bunch of inverters that have failed, and that's all that needs to happen. Not all that needs to happen, but that's part of what needs to happen. And if I can do that, then I probably won't steal all the panels to put on the roof here. But there might still be some extra ones. But if I could put solar panels on the roof and swap the furnaces for heat pumps, yeah, it could be like the first net zero airport in New Mexico, just to, have a feather in our cap about it. So.
Like 12 megawatts? What kind of power are we talking from these? If you were to install all those solar panels there, how much could you generate?
Are you just going to bring it back online, the one that's already there?
That's what I'd like to do. That's what I'd like to do. Yeah, the one out at the field's a 1 megawatt. So it's 1 megawatt. We'd produce about $300,000 worth of electricity a year, and I think it would cost us about $1 million to fix it. What? So, yeah, well, it's a lot of energy. I mean, the new one that's coming online, Foxtail Flats, and in Farmington, is 170 megawatts. With 80 megawatts of battery storage on site. So it's a drop in the bucket compared to Foxtail Flats, but it just seems like it would be a shame to decommission it. It would be a little bit embarrassing, I think, for the county to decommission it. And it's going to cost money to disassemble it. So
I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, 15 years ago, there was a Japanese consortium.
Well, they're the ones who put it in, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's where this came from. It was a smart house project.
Yeah.
Part of it. Okay.
Yeah, I was involved with that back in 2009, 2010. So part of my master's thesis was working with that solar plant. So I kind of know the plant a bit, but we'll see. Well, I don't really know where that's headed. But.
So if you could make that work again, how much money could you generate per year from electricity?
$300,000. It's not a ton, but it's enough to power 200 houses year round.
I think it's worth it.
Yeah. So.
It's a 3-year ROI, and then you get another 15 years out of it.
Well, that's the way I look at it. It's pretty good ROI as far as projects go. I mean, especially energy conservation projects. That's pretty good. So. anyway, we'll see. You know, I mean, these are just like numbers that I've just pulled out and just rough. You know, I could be totally way off. I've not worked in commercial solar, but so I'm trying to buy some art for the building and put that up and just make it a lot more interesting to walk into. I've been working with some people on possibly artifacts from the Black Hole Muse that used to be up here, if anybody knows what that is, and some ideas about maybe using the incinerator building as part of an exhibit, an art exhibit, and trying to attract you know, visitors that way. And then I've gotten some signage up for the trails. I mean, there's 100 miles of trails right outside the terminal door, so it's like really cool. You can fly in and walk through the terminal, and then you know you can even go backpacking from there. So I've been mowing there's a bailout field down below in Pueblo Canyon, and I've been mowing that. And there's a nice hike down that. I'm working with the Parks and Rec to get some signage to it and some signage on the road that points to this place as a trailhead, and then a map inside the terminal of all the trails you could go to. So there's not all that many places that you can fly in and then hike right from there. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, these are just some of the things that are happening there. I mean, we talked about it before, the medical services and the firefighting support. I think they're really essential things. So it's really important for the county to support all those things. The county in the past has been somewhat less supportive, you know, at times, more supportive at other times. And I think it's really critical to its continued existence. So been working really good. I mean, trying to have good relationships with the state and federal firefighters and the medical service company. We're trying to get them to relocate there so they can stop overflying unnecessarily over the residential area over here. So they recently just bought a house in Table Loop that was right near the airport, and so they're going to work on getting their medical crew located there so they can stay there, and the helicopters would be located when they're not in use at the airport instead of at the medical center. So whenever they need to go somewhere, you know, they're not taking off from the medical center, they're taking off from the end of the runway where they wouldn't make as much noise. So, and yeah, these are some of the partner organizations that work out at the airport. The Experimental Aircraft Association that I mentioned, the New Mexico Pilots Association, I'm a member there, and I'm on the tourism board, and I'm trying to work with them to do some a prototype kiosk that might go in there, and then if it works out there, we might roll it out to the rest of the small airports in the state. And Civil Air Patrol has an office there, and they have meetings every Tuesday. They're pretty consistent, but they don't have a plane, and that's kind of problematic. And then we have a couple of mobile mechanics that come up to visit. And these are the major projects that are happening that we have grant funding for. Right now, we just got these two on the left. The Taxiway F Foxtrot is the whole west end of the runway. So we're looking to just bulldoze the old hangars and redevelop that whole end. And then we're building these AT hangars so we can relocate the people who are occupying the hangars we want to bulldoze. We can relocate them there as a first step. So we're working on that now, building. You'll start seeing construction out there probably in a month or two. And then after the design work, there'll be the development, and then build some more hangars out there. And I've been approached by a few companies who are interested in aviation-related business spaces out there that would still be hangars, but they would do aviation or aerospace and things like that. So could be a little aviation business park if it goes somewhere. We'll see. So that's the stuff that I'm working on. I've only been here a year. I'm still like learning all the county's ways and how to politically, you know, get things done. It's complicated, you know, like most bureaucracies. They're like, whoa, slow down, you know, slow down here. So it's just it's kind of the way it goes. It's but they've generally been supportive and of the kind of initiatives I'm taking, and that's what makes it fun for me. Is like a lot of these things are just pet projects that are fun to kind of engage with the community and try to support aviation. So.
Supporting the medical emergency response services, having the capability to enhance firefighting with aircraft that can come in. I mean, I think that's really the key selling point need that
Right.
the airport fulfills.
Now, those are the anchors, I think, for its reason for existence. And then all the other stuff is, just fun stuff to do to sort of encourage aviation.
The growing the aviation community, that's the one that I think is most.
Well, I'm surprised. So you said you had over 50 aircraft that are there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those mostly like private pilots that live here in Los Alamos that want
Yeah.
to go up and fly?
Yeah, but they either work during the day, so you don't really see them when you're driving to and from work, or they're older and they haven't admitted they're not flying yet. I mean, they're not going to fly again. So it's there's the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, there's a lot more activity than there are the rest of the week. So.
Well, maybe you could put a little sign, on the street. We have 100 aircraft at this airport at all times. You just can't see them. They're hiding in the hangar. Something like that, because people think it's empty, and then
Why don't we just get a speaker and play
Yeah.
sounds of zooming airplanes?
I don't know, something like that. But people just don't necessarily know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm sure people drive by it and shake their heads like, man, we could solve the housing problems and we just build out up
Yeah,
there.
but there are.
Well, there you go. Let them build houses there and take one of the 9 holes, and instead of running east northeast to west southwest with the runway, which seems kind of, how you see the sock, and it's always across.
Always cross.
95% of the time it's across.
It's always cross, yeah.
Yeah, if you just took up a whole section of the golf course, put in 8,000-foot runway, you could run east-west. You'd be into the wind. That'd be awesome.
No, it's true. I mean, if you're Harrison Ford, you can just land on the runway. I mean, on the golf course.
All right, thank you for that. I mean, that's great.
Thanks a lot.
That's great.
All right.
I have to run the.
Do the 4-way test and then we'll hang out. Yeah, that way people can get out.
All right. Things they are doing, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought it was, I know they're limited by space because of the Mesa, right? But I was wondering why they went, with knowing weather patterns with a crosswind runway flying into a mountain
Yeah,
as
thank you.
opposed to